There's one stock that is about to jump up in price. This is a semiconductor stock. Semis are doing super well. You can look at AMD's recent deal with OpenAI that made that stock jump up more than 15%. Nvidia recently hit all-time highs again, and the semiconductor ETF SMH, of which this company is a part of, is also super strong. This company, the ticker is AMAT, has Intel and Apple as its customers. Intel also jumping up in the last couple months with that 10% government stake. So let's jump into the details on AMAT and why this is the semi stock and the stock to buy right now. This is not financial advice.
This is Sam Putnam.
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 So this is the chart right now. You can see after this earnings reaction, AMAT's recovered, and now we're just sort of surfing along these lines here. That's an awesome, awesome situation to be buying in. And you can buy here and risk $5-10 and make 10, 20, 30 and more. So super, super low risk opportunity. I don't know always that you want to buy stocks that have slight relative weakness to the market, but it's only slight. You see these green days were super, super strong. And if we look at NVIDIA with an N, super, super strong green days, pretty much a mirror of the market, which is usually the case to have the biggest companies mirror the market. So if we look at AMAT, Friday was a little less strong, but the great thing about that in this case is that what it meant is that you can still enter this stock really close to this line. So it's actually nice to have some additional selling in here, because when that pressure gets lifted off, this is going to be like a bouncing ball, a tennis ball, and you push it underwater and it just rises right to the top of the water and maybe jumps out of that pool a little bit. So that's sort of what's going on here. Earnings is in a couple weeks, but don't have to worry about that right now. This is just very attractive in terms of risk reward, which if you look at your phone, your computer every couple days, or every few days, that's what you want, risk reward. You could talk about how Amazon has the humanoid tailwinds behind them, and this is going to be the next $4 trillion stock with Nvidia. That's great, but would you want to buy it right now? When it's above the 200-day moving average, but it's sort of sloping down. It's super choppy. Not only that, it has earnings on Thursday. So it's really important to not just have a macro thesis about a company, but also to say, you know what, right now is the time to buy it, in my opinion. So let's talk about some macro, some fundamentals about the company as well, because we do want to know what we're buying. They do have $7 billion of revenue, almost 10% increase year over year, and $2 billion of free cash flow. So that's good. And I don't know exactly how important AMAT is compared to other semiconductor companies, and I don't know exactly how much these export restrictions are going to be a problem for them, but I do know that they're sort of dealing with it. Okay, so this is not good for people who work there, but it's good for investors. It is what it is, and they did that restructuring, and that's sort of baked in, I think, even though that might not come out until the next earnings, which if we look at the chart, we can see that exact date is November 13th. So this is sort of a pre-earnings idea, although if earnings are great and you still hold some of the stock, if you get in before then, that's obviously a nice little push, although I don't think it's a good idea to hold a big position unless you have a cushion into earnings. So a little bit about their customers, right? Intel use it for their fabs, and I did mention Apple, but also TSMC uses them as well. Advanced chip production, of course, advanced. Samsung also uses them, and then Apple. These are the chips for the iPhones and Macs. Uses their equipment. Boeing, maybe it doesn't have the greatest reputation right now, but it's still a massive company, and they use them. So this is a materials company, Corning. Now, I do think it's important to look a little bit at some of these other companies that are in the semiconductor ETF. So AMAT is in this SMH ETF. It's about 5% of the ETF, but it's nice to know that other companies in an ETF are also doing well. So this is the ETF. I already looked at the big ones, AMD, Intel with that government stake, and then NVIDIA also doing pretty well. There are other ones as well, LRCX holding up. This is relevant because they just recently had earnings. So if we look at Q2 earnings, they were sort of all over the board. The reactions weren't great. This reaction on LRCX wasn't until September when the market as a whole went up. The actual earnings reaction wasn't great. So you can see a couple days after, it sort of just went sideways. So this is just one stock. It's not a big deal, to extrapolate this to all stocks or even all semi-stocks, but it is nice to see this moving up after earnings. And NVIDIA is the last to report, but AMD will be in there in a couple weeks. And then Intel, this isn't great, okay, but it's still above where it was before earnings. If we look at, a chart, we can see that pretty clearly. It's pretty much where it was before earnings currently. So, did it sell off? Yes. Is that a big deal? I don't know that it's a big deal. So here's AMAT right now sitting here, coming into earnings on the, the 5th, the 13th. And then looking at a couple other semi-stocks that I just want to mention here. These are sort of smaller ones, but TER, KLAC, and ASML is a pretty big one as well. So we should definitely look at ASML. ASML, $1,000 stock. This is the earnings reaction so far. Fine, holding up, pretty good. Slow moving stock, but solid. TER hasn't had earnings yet. Sort of looks like all these semi stocks moving up. This was obviously the day that was bad for all stocks, so no big deal there. That was the Trump down day a couple Fridays ago. KLAC earnings on Wednesday. So if you do get a chance to look at the reaction for KLAC before you check back in on AMAT, I think that would be a good idea. These companies they're different, obviously. I don't know how different they are, but if you can get a handle on how other semi stocks are doing, then that's super helpful. And if we just look sort of at what stocks are doing well, Mag 7's definitely doing well. And we can see that about half of these are going to report on Wednesday, and then some more will report on Thursday. There are some software stocks, MongoDB doing well. As far as stocks that just had earnings very recently, CRS holding in there. Another one is GM to sort of get an indicator of how this earnings season is going. Pretty solid. And then the big one for these chip stocks, IBM, that I haven't even mentioned yet, just because it's so big, sort of forgot about it. It's slow moving, but it's recently not at all slow moving. Sold off, reclaimed that whole level, and then reclaimed even more. So this has been a pretty awesome reaction and definitely positive for the semis. So that's sort of the peers right now. This is the setup, and this is the date you want to make sure you're aware of, November 13th. That's the idea. If you like these ideas, hit that like button. If you haven't hit that subscribe, hit that subscribe. And if you want to make $1,000 in stocks in the next 90 days or your money back, head over to stockscommunity.com or hit that join button to see the details. You must have $25,000 or more to invest. And one way or the other, I will see you soon.
This is Sam Putnam. This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.
This is Sam Putnam.